Sammy screamed again. But this time, the scream soon turned into a giggle, followed by shouts from the boys. Quinn relaxed as the safety bars came down over everyone's laps with a mechanical churn. The coaster came to life with a dragon's roar and rumble that shook the whole coaster. "See, she's fine. They're having fun," Fred said, hoping to allay Quinn's fears. Quinn nodded and tried to breathe while the coaster crept slowly up the track toward the top of a very high first drop. Quinn squeezed her eyes shut. "What? Scared of heights?" Fred taunted beside her while the coaster climbed higher and higher until the peak spread out in front of them. The other rides and coasters looked tiny in comparison to Dragon's Breath. Quinn thought she might pass out. "Actually, I am." Fred's hand on hers forced her eyes open. He held her hand and yelled over the sound of the coaster and the dragon's roar. "Keep your eyes open and let your body relax, or else you'll get sick." Quinn wanted to argue with him, but she was afraid she would throw up if she opened her mouth. Fred gave her hand another reassuring squeeze as the coaster tilted over the first massive drop, and Dragon's fire spewed from the front seat. She held onto his hand and kept her eyes open as the coaster dropped. The kids ran off in front of Quinn and Fred after the ride ended. "They are definitely gonna get married," Jake high-fived Denny. "Yeah, we just need to switch back," Denny told Jake and Sammy. "Let's go on another ride. Then I'll say we have to go to the bathroom and then we can switch," Jake whispered. "Good idea. They won't notice a difference with the capes. We just gotta switch our shirts." Denny motioned toward their matching capes. The boys jumped apart when Quinn and Fred approached. "Come on, kids. That's enough fun for one day." Quinn waved them towards the exit. "But we want to ride again," Jake whined. "Tomorrow. I'm worn out," Quinn said. "And you two need a bath. Stat." Quinn grabbed a hold of Jake and Sammy's shirts playfully to drag them towards the exit. "Say, how about another ride, kiddo?" Fred asked Denny, thinking he was Jake. "I don't know," Denny shrugged. "I'm kind of tired." Fred knelt down in front of Denny and gave his shoulders a squeeze. "Oh, come on. One more ride, please, for your dad. We never get to hang out, just us." "Okay," Denny agreed. Within a moment, the boys' plans had been ruined. Denny waved to Jake and Sammy, Quinn too. But right before she turned to leave, Denny, as Jake, rushed forward and gave Quinn a big hug. Fred wanted to be mad at Quinn for showing up on his vacation, but seeing how happy Jake was to see her versus how scared he'd been the last time he saw Beatrice, Fred felt himself softening towards Quinn. He also couldn't stop thinking about how nice it had been to hold her hand. Back in the hotel suite, Quinn ran a bath for Sammy and the boy she thought was Denny before she tucked them into bed. After her own shower, Quinn sat on the bed drying her hair with a towel when the hotel phone rang. Quinn rushed over to answer it before it woke up the kids. The front desk insisted that there was a medical emergency across the hall, in Fred's room, but Quinn knew it had to be his son Jake pulling another prank. Still, Quinn knew her duty as a doctor and took her medical bag across the hall. She had to stop herself from laughing when she knocked on the door. Quinn couldn't believe what a prankster Jake turned out to be, especially since Fred seemed so uptight. She wondered where Jake had got his good humor from because it certainly was not his hateful mother Beatrice either. Quinn could picture Fred's furious face when he saw her standing there, but she had to be sure that Jake and Fred were all right. "Since when do I care about Fred Smith's well-being?" Quinn asked herself. But when the door opened, her mind went completely blank as she took in the sight of Fred, soaking wet, with only a towel around his waist. "Quinn, can I help you?" Fred seemed more surprised than angry, which also threw Quinn off her game, along with Fred being shirtless. She was speechless. In fact, she was certain that her brain had completely turned off at this point. Fred Smith was much more handsome than she remembered from a few hours ago, especially without a shirt on. Be professional, Quinn thought, forcing herself to speak in a casual tone. I was called to help a patient. Fred rolled his eyes. Not this again. I know. Jake is such a prankster, but I promise you, I was called by a person at the front desk. Quinn insisted with her hands raised in innocence. Fred nodded and opened the door wider for her to enter. Jake was sad to leave you guys at the park today. I'm not surprised that he pulled another prank on us. Quinn shook her head. She couldn't be mad at Jake. He reminded her too much of Denny. Well, obviously we've been duped again. Perhaps he's the one obsessed with me, Quinn laughed. You're certainly more liked by Jake than Beatrice, that's for sure. She took long inhales and exhales. She was determined not to let Fred know that him shirtless sent her spinning out into fantasy land. Or how much it warmed her heart knowing that Jake wanted to see her again today. Jake? Jake, joke's over, son. Fred yelled his son's name and walked around the hotel suite, but he was nowhere to be seen. Fred turned back to Quinn, but she shook her head. Quinn looked out into the hallway, but Jake wasn't there either. She closed the door behind her. Very funny, Jake. You can come out now. Fred pushed open the closet door, but there was just empty hangers and their suitcases. I'm here, Jake. You can come out now. We can watch a movie if you want. Quinn leaned over and checked under the queen-sized beds, but both were empty underneath. Fred ran around the room and into the bathroom and out again. He was too frantic to even get dressed. Jake? Fred yelled. He opened the hotel room door and looked down the hallway, but it was empty. Fred looked back to Quinn with panic in his eyes. He's gone. Quinn, Jake's gone.
Hi, Quinn here. And if you're wondering what happens next, click on the link in the description to listen to the full audio series. You can also watch the next episode here in the playlist.